Welcome to the clinical cookout.
Hey y'all, it's Auntie Ashley at the Clinical Cookout, and it is Friendly Neighborhood Therapist Friday, so you know that means I am wrapping up our theme this week, which was money moves and mental health, the effects of socioeconomic status on our mental health. Let's get into this Friendly Neighborhood Therapist Friday. All right, y'all, so on Sunday, that is the day that we typically record our episodes, right? So we were struggling to find a hot sauce to actually do. I made a post and I told folks to give me their controversial topics when it comes to socioeconomic status. Got some wonderful, wonderful feedback on that post, so thank y'all. So what I want to do today is go through the list of ideas that we got, and I'm going to give y'all my take on each one of them. So I'm going to get through as many of them as I can because y'all came through, and we just gonna get into it. First take, does money buy happiness or does money equal happiness? So of course, a lot of people are gonna say, no, it doesn't. There are far too many rich and wealthy people who are not happy. Far too many rich and wealthy people who have unalived themselves. So it can't equal happiness. Now, here's my take. Does money in it of itself equal happiness? No. But does it give people more access to happiness, and does it oftentimes reduce stressors in certain areas? Absolutely. Because if I ain't got to worry about how I'm going to pay my bills, that's a stressor removed. That's anxiety removed. Now, money brings along its own stressors for people with a lot of money, or even people who are comfortable. Money does bring along its own stressors. And honestly, every time you get a little bit more money, how I go, more money, more problems. That is true. In most cases, that is true. However, I do believe that making sure someone is financially secure can, in turn, give them more opportunity to possibly get to happiness. Now, what does the research show? Well, the research shows from Wharton and Princeton that there is a steady association between larger incomes and greater happiness for most people, but a rise and plateau for an unhappy minority. So here's the thing. If you are genuinely happy already with where you are in life, and you are just the type of person to find joy in sorrow and to press through, and you have that type of mindset, then you were happy before the money. If you are happy before money, there's a stronger chance that money will just make that better. But if you were already dealing with certain things before money that have nothing to do with money, like say you are just clinically depressed, or you deal with some sort of mental health issue, money ain't gonna take that away. Like I said on the episode, society discriminates, mental health issues do not. Next up, someone mentioned to talk about scarcity mindset. So first, what is a scarcity mindset? Well, by definition, it is when one believes resources are limited and the mindset causes them to then hyperfixate on that, which leads to short-term coping instead of long-term problem solving, and increases jealousy and stress. What are some signs that you are stuck in this mindset? Well, thinking you always lose and others always win, viewing others as competitors, being overly controlling, being pessimistic, feeling like you're always behind, being impatient, overscheduling yourself, or feeling depressed or paralyzed. Now, this is my issue with the whole scarcity mindset thing. For me, it takes a place of privilege to not fall into this mindset. Period, point blank. And some of those signs, take for example, viewing others as competitors. We live in a capitalistic society that tells us that everything is a competition. So, One other issue I have with the scarcity mindset definition is that it states when one believes resources are limited, as if to say this is an irrational belief. Resources are limited. Period, point blank. Depending on where you fall on that socioeconomic ladder, resources are limited. So that's not an irrational belief. However, I will say that obsessing over what you lack is not going to bring you what you lack. And that's also a part of that scarcity mindset, just constantly obsessing over what you don't have. Now, I get that that's an easy mindset to fall into, especially as you watch maybe other people get to things or get things and wonder how they are doing it, particularly if you fall in the middle or lower class socioeconomic status. But at the end of the day, obsessing over anything is not okay. So finding ways to shift your focus, shift your energy will probably help you get out of that mindset. But in reality, the world we live in is not irrational for people in middle and lower class socioeconomic status to have a scarcity mindset, because it's scarce out here. period, point blank. And everybody doesn't have the natural personality to just be joyful when they don't have. The next two I'm gonna put together because they kind of go hand in hand. So, good friend of mine said prosperity gospel, suffering for gain mindsets. And the other friend said suffering is required, needed for happiness and success. I have never liked that mindset. I can't stand prosperity gospel. The idea that, the more you give, the more you'll get. Well, reality and experience doesn't show that that's factual. It doesn't. I understand having faith. I understand that. However, what does reality show? The whole idea of suffering for gain is a problem to me. Just like I don't like the idea of, well, you got to go through hard times to be strong. There are other ways to gain strength. Just like there are other ways to be happy outside of suffering. Now, you have some people who believe you can't really feel happiness or gain or success fully if you don't know what the opposite feels like. Huh? I tend to think that only people in lower socioeconomic statuses get told to believe that lie. Next, the belief that one should not have standards if one has not achieved those standards. Excuse me? So then that would mean anybody in your lower SES statuses shouldn't have standards because they haven't achieved anything to have those standards. Now, does that make sense to y'all in any way? Just because I have less doesn't mean that I can't have a standard, especially if I'm trying to get to more, if I'm working to get there. That's not okay. It's not okay to tell anyone what their standards should or shouldn't be. Now, are all standards realistic? Absolutely not. But at the end of the day, your standards are yours. And until you feel like you need to compromise them, you don't. This next one ties into what I was just talking about with the scarcity mindset and all that. Homegirl said the use of limiting beliefs, money blocks to gaslight people who simply don't have resources. Again, like I said, I truly believe that people who make those type of statements, like you shouldn't have a scarcity mindset, you need to work for longer term goals, they are speaking from a place of privilege. It's easy to say those things when you already do have. And then what you are doing is you are placing these limiting beliefs into people who are struggling when their struggle isn't about their beliefs. It's about our world, the way it's set up, the economy, the socioeconomic status structure. It's about that. It's not about them having anything to do with it. It is very much external. Next, wealth is tied to personal choice. For the most part, I believe this is false. And mind y'all, a lot of what I'm saying today is my personal opinion, and some of it is based in just things that we've seen and how society operates and the structures and systems that are in place. Wealth, for the most part, true wealth, is not tied to one's personal choices. Because there are people who make very smart personal decisions and they don't end up wealthy. There are people who are financially savvy who don't end up wealthy. So it's not about your personal choices. It's often about your connections and your upbringing and what you already had and what you've been given, what's been passed down, that generational type of wealth that many Black Americans are blocked from due to the history of this raggedy country. And the last one I'm going to talk about today, is it Black excellence or Black elitism? The belief that excellence can only be obtained through capitalism. First, let me just say, Black excellence in and of itself is not a bad thing, okay? It's not a bad thing to highlight and hype up our successes, our achievements, our people that made it out, none of that. That's not bad. But oftentimes, Black excellence is code for Black exceptionalism. And Black exceptionalism is often used to justify Black humanity. Okay, and that's where we get into a problem. So Black exceptionalism is the notion that Black people who are educated, smart, articulate, poised, and basically any other positive adjective you can think of are atypical or rarities among the general Black population. However, systemic barriers throughout history have made it more challenging for Black people to ascend and succeed. So under this notion, it is important to showcase those who have been able to advance despite the insurmountable odds created by global racism and anti-Blackness. So proponents of Black exceptionalism assert that representation matters and is vital to showcase. However, when we veer off into Black elitism, that is harmful. So there's a Jay-Z lyric that says, "You can't help the poor if you're one of them. So I got rich and gave back. To me, that's a win-win." Here's the thing. The Black elite won't save us because usually the Black elite, once they get to that level, they are more concerned about protecting what they have built. Now, that's not to say that they don't help and reach back, not at all, but it's about how you do it. See, for me, you can pour money onto things, which is great, which is wonderful. But what comes out of your mouth? How do you step for those in lower socioeconomic status? How do you advocate? How do you try to change policy? Like, what are you doing? Because pouring money over something is like putting a Band-Aid over it. It's not changing the intricate internal structures that have caused the whole thing to happen in the first place. At the end of the day, you cannot cause change on a systemic level when you reach heights and then fall right into the system. That's just not possible. So, is there anything wrong with obtaining success and wealth? No, there's not, and it can be very beneficial in a lot of ways. But at the end of the day, if your mindset, like we talked about the scarcity mindset, if your mindset then goes to a capitalistic mindset, we just lost you. We just lost you, because there is no winning in a capitalistic system. This is why the socioeconomic status structure exists in the first place. I know people believe there will always be a rich or poor. There will always be rich and poor. There will always be the haves and the have-nots. My problem with that is that doesn't have to be the case, but it probably always will be the case, because once people get to a certain place, they fall into the opposite mindset of the scarcity mindset. And neither of those are beneficial to anyone, especially to whole groups, especially to taking down structures, especially to decolonization, especially to anything that would help repair the damage that generations have felt. So that's my take on some of the things on my page. There were more, and I wish I could have got to all of them, but let me know what y'all think. And make sure y'all join us next week, because next week is our season 3 finale, and it is live. So we will be live on Facebook Live to chill and chat with y'all and talk about whatever. We are going to have so much fun, and thank y'all for rocking with us for 3 seasons. We'll see y'all next week.